What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Live Free podcast. I'm your host, Mike Maxwell. Again, we're back in the chair. Lex, it's good to see you.
Yes, it's good to see you also.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you
We
very
did a
much.
happy early birthday.
Yes.
Happy late birthday now. How old did you turn?
28.
Oh, you're such a baby.
Yeah, I'm pretty young.
You're such a baby. You're so lucky.
Yeah.
That's good. Live it up, son.
Dude,
Here
I've
it
been
is.
trying to.
This is the end of your young adult life.
This is before all the back problems and
You're
when
at the
I really have to get my shit together.
Yeah. You're at the end of your you're in the peak of your summer.
Yeah.
The summer of your life.
My prohibition period is almost up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we got Martin Machado on the show today. We're going to talk to him in a little bit. He makes some crazy stuff, and I'm sure has some pretty interesting stories. He's a merchant marine and has worked fishing in Alaska and is a pretty manly man, it seems like.
Yes.
Has worked some pretty fucking gnarly jobs and is a really good painter and illustrator.
Yeah. So I read up on him. He's based out of San Francisco, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
But like his art, I get a Seattle vibe of like the marketplace in Seattle.
Yeah.
It's so weird, but I guess that's from the Alaska stuff. Yeah, because it's the similarities there.
Yeah. So we'll get into all of that. I just got back from LA. We were up there this week. I started filming for the first video installment of the podcast. I did. Me and Charles Page went up and filmed some stuff with Johnny Comanzi Rodriguez, who was on the show, I think, 3 years ago. Mike Giant has been a repeat guest a bunch of times, but I think this is the only time we've had another repeat guest besides like our Wisest Wizard stuff.
Yeah.
So we went up, we did a full interview. We sat down and did like Barbara Walters style interview. And then got a bunch of footage of him in the gallery setting up his stuff. So that will be coming out soon. There'll be a full podcast for that. I'm going to put out the podcast interview or put out the Barbara Walters interview as a podcast.
Okay.
It's a little shorter than our normal ones, but it should be pretty cool. And then there'll be like a little 10-minute mini documentary.
Sweet.
And so that's the goal. So as like artists who have been on the show have like things that are coming up, we will set up little mini docs, do a secondary podcast, and then put out a big like multimedia conglomerate. We're building a.
That's cool. That's like the whole what is it, like the digipack, like CD with the documentary on filming the record. Yeah. So that's totally cool. It's like going up to the show. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be nice. This is the first one, so it's really trial by fire, trying to figure everything out, and see if we can put something cool out there. And then I figure since we're already getting like a different type of background on the artists who have been on the show, it might be cool to even add more to that. Like add the visual element back into the audio. You know what I mean? Since we've been like subtracting stories from people, extracting. Yeah. Add the visuals for people who are, interested in that.
So they can put like...
And it could be little trailers for the podcast, too. Like, if you want to watch the 10-minute video, you might be interested enough to go in and listen to the full 45-minute interview or whatever. So, that's coming up, and then I'm sure everybody who has listened to the show will be interested to check that out. Make sure you go follow everybody. I haven't done any of the go follow this.
I still get follows every the last two, since we started doing this again, when I'm producing, I've been getting new followers. I'm like, this is sweet.
Yeah,
I feel important.
You are important, man. You're very important. So make sure you go follow Producer Lex at Producer Lex. Follow the podcast at Live Free Podcast, and you can follow me at Mike Maxwell Art, and we'll get all of Martin's info at the end of this show. So let's jump right into this thing. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Sound good? All right, let's give Martin a call.
Hello?
Mr. Martin Machado, what's up, my friend?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good.
It's nice to meet you in this weird digital form. I don't know. We've never crossed paths in real life, have we?
No, I actually stopped by your show, so I've seen your work in person and just kind of gave you like a hello nod, but I didn't know you,
Via
so
the work. How that's such an interesting thing. How you can kind of get
yeah,
like a sense for somebody, but through a painting, because you know it's something that they've spent a significant amount of time around. Or like there's
yeah,
the blood, sweat, and tears in it. So you kind of like it's almost like an extension of a person. Do you ever feel
hmm
like that with your own stuff? I think it's only like from the viewer's perspective, maybe.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I hope you can kind of like live through your. It's an extension of you, yeah.
I
You
was just
grow.
I don't know if you ever get this feeling or not, but I was just at Mary Karnowski's gallery on Tuesday, and she had a group show up in this little side room, and I was looking at a bunch of people's paintings. And I don't know if I've talked about this on the show or not, but I've definitely talked to some of my art friends about it. Like how sometimes you look at other people's paintings, and it just seems like a completely different like art form. Like paint looks different when other people apply it to things. Like let's say you give two people the same exact paint supplies and they
hmm
both apply a painting, like both talented artists to, a canvas or a board or whatever. If you look at the two, it'll be like as if the actual mediums are different. Have you ever sensed that? Like looking at work, like looking at other people's work in comparison to your own?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I suppose everyone has a different technique and way of applying and working with paint.
And that makes me feel like it's totally alien, right? Like completely
Yeah.
different. Like it's not even paint. Like I know it's paint, and I know the techniques and the thing that everything that they use, but it seems like something completely different. And I don't know if I'm even like articulating it properly, but it's really like a sense that, especially, I get it with the oil painters who can paint very detailed works, but they seem flat as glass.
Uh-huh.
Like it almost seems printed, but like it doesn't even seem like there's brushstrokes on it. Like I look at those types of paintings and I'm like, this isn't even. It's not even fucking paint. Like it, like it's some other substance. Am I? Maybe
Yeah.
I'm the only one. Maybe I don't know. So I think I first became familiar with your stuff. I think through Fecal Face, probably,
Uh-huh.
which is like a common phrase that comes out of my mouth. Maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
It,
most of my I mean, I first started showing photos with them, just like travel log stuff, just blogs about shipping and all that, and then I try to kind of start sneaking paintings in there and you know,
well, did you grow
showing
up in
that.
the Bay Area?
Yeah, I grew up in San Jose in the South Bay,
Okay.
and then I've been up here in San Francisco for about 10 years. I came up for grad school at SFAI and stuck around.
You had art in your life at an early age, I assume. To
Yeah, I mean, I grew up doing it. I guess like any little kid, and then it just kind of was something I did more on the side, and I ended up, sort of transferring from one school where I was doing oceanography. I went to Miami in Florida for a year, and it's kind of a boring story, but I had to transfer and be a junior when I was a sophomore, and I had all these credits from taking night classes in high school and like art stuff and video and TV just to make like skate videos with my friends, and I was
yeah.
able to be a junior art major, so that was sort of the decision maker when I made the switch, and just kind of started to think about it as a possible career, but still always used other jobs to really pay the bills and everything.
Yeah, that's something I want to get into too. Like your career path has
hmm
been interesting, and it has sort of been the precipice for your artwork as well
Yeah.
in some ways. Which that's something I've been thinking about a lot. Like the way some artists are able to really implement the things that happen in their life into a visual medium of some sort,
hmm
and really give a pretty solid representation of their sort of day-to-day lifestyle, or maybe like their yearly lifestyle. And I think that's something sort of commendable. I think it's something that I lack in my own work. Like it's so like metaphorical that like the connections are lost in the depth of the metaphor. Whereas I see some people are able to utilize certain imagery, certain ideas, certain images that really do represent their life or even lifestyle. Did you set out to make that path, or was it something that was just like, a part of your life, so it just became a part of the work?
Yeah, no, it took some time. I mean, I'd always kind of done part-time work like on boats. I started out working on like sailboats, like a tall ship was my first one, and then just like modern charter boats, and that led to commercial fishing. But that whole time I wasn't really making art about the sea. I think it took me a little while to wrap my brain around trying to do that. But just because there's so much sort of cheesy sea art, and I think kind of growing up in the 90s, I think you sort of have like I don't know, it seemed like juxtaposed kind of back then, and that sort of like kind of cynical art was sort of what I looked at as a kid, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that makes sense, but anyways, it took a while, and then I remember looking at like the land artists, from like the 60s and 70s, like Richard Long and Andy Goldsworthy, and thinking about how like with Richard Long, like his traveling would be his art, his like walking across some massive land. And I thought like, oh, maybe I could be the sea artist, like my journey would sort of be, but I never really was a huge fan of his like physical work. So I sort of always had more of an aesthetic interest, like, to painters and work that was a little less visually, I like the conceptual stuff, but I think you really have to pay attention to what people are looking at and has to draw them in. So I'm still tied to that visual side of things, even though there might be, some deeper meaning to it that some people might get into. I still always wanted to have like something that people could appreciate just seeing in person.
Sure. And I think that there is like, you have to be careful of like kitsch, right?
Yeah.
Like, and do you ever worry about like pigeonholing yourself? So like Jeff Soto was on the show, and he made a comment about being concerned about being the robot guy. Like, am I the fucking robot painter guy? And so do you ever get any concerns with being with a particular focus?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you kind of look back through the last 10 years of my work, I've just bounced around so much. I mean, not necessarily always with the themes, but the styles. But I don't know. I've kind of had the attitude like I need a voice first before I can start speaking out. I feel like I need to have some little foot in the door before I can start just like going all over the place. But I would love to be at the point when I could do that and people would still pay attention to my work. But I guess I'm a little scared that if it's all over the place, then people won't, it's like curators and collectors. They like to sort of be able to put you in a category, and yeah, it sucks. But at the same time, it sort of helps you get somewhere. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad attitude to have.
No. I mean, it's like this continual problem of artistic integrity versus realistic business practice as an artist, and there has to be a balance in between there. I find I think being all over the place for myself is one of my faults, which kind of inhibits some of my gallery relationships or curator relationships, because I'm changing. Like, I'm so bipolar in the work that I make. Luckily, I'm not that bipolar in real life, but like super bipolar in the work that I make. Like, just from one day to the next, I'll be like, fuck it, I'm just going to change the whole shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I think, in like the whole information age and all that, we're just so overwhelmed with imagery and ideas, and it's just there's so much stuff coming at us.
I know. I wake up every day angry at the internet now.
Yeah.
Just because of all the information that comes in now, I just get angry at it every morning. But I still digest it.
Yeah.
That's the sign of a problem, huh? Right?
Yeah, it's nice to sort of check out every once in a while, I think.
I know, and maybe that's a good segue to this sort of isolationist nature environment that you seem to place yourself in on a semi-regular basis. So for the people that don't know, you've done commercial fishing, merchant marine work. You've been out on some gnarly seas. You've been up in Alaska. You've been all over, right?
Yeah, yeah, I've done a lot of random little venues in the maritime trade, I guess.
Now,
But
I'm curious how that becomes. So you mentioned doing your schooling in Florida.
uh
How does this? So like most of us know that these types of jobs are some of like the most dangerous jobs known to man. Like in terms of like high risk.
mhm.
Um, how is it that you get involved in something like that? You mentioned getting on some boats early and growing up in a bay town.
Yeah.
You have options to that. But I mean, I grew up in fucking San Diego, and
Uh,
I'm not fucking getting on a boat in Alaska and fishing
oh,
or
there's
some
San
high
Diego
seas
guys
shit.
up there.
That's one of like a huge fear of mine, like being out in the middle of the ocean and the boat not floating anymore. Or like
Yeah.
rogue waves. Like I watch all those fucking YouTube rogue wave videos, and that shit scares the fuck out of me. I can't
Yeah,
even imagine.
yeah.
Or I just watched The Wolf of Wall Street not that long ago, and that scene with him on the yacht. The fucking dude, fuck that. I would lose my shit.
I haven't seen it.
I have a real
Yeah,
fear of
rogue
having,
waves are scary.
dude, having to float in an ocean for 24 hours or like some long period of time seems like the most daunting task ever.
It's weirdly calming though when you
Oh,
get out.
okay, man, shit. So tell me how that works, please.
Well, I mean, I guess
But jump back. I
which
want to
sort
know
of
how it like began. What did your folks do, for instance? Did your folks have any
yeah,
crazy jobs?
no, they weren't really connected to the sea. I mean, my dad's an attorney, and my mom's done a bunch of different stuff, real estate, and worked at a school in San Jose and stuff. But no, my grandfather on my mom's side, he lived in Santa Cruz. I had a lot of family over in Santa Cruz, so I was there a lot, and that's kind of was my first introduction to the ocean and everything. But he restored some old fishing boats, and so I remember going out on them and. Um, but it was more just of a personal interest. I think read some like I got into surf. I got into sort of that Santa Cruz surf scene and stuff as a kid,
Right.
and just was sort of enamored with it. And I think being a kid from over the hill in San Jose, I was always like really like I was on the outskirts. I didn't really belong, so I just thought that was amazing. But yeah, I mean that. Then I started working on a sailboat, and it was a tall ship. Like you guys in San Diego have that tall ship, the Californian and the Star of India. I think
Yeah.
it's just like a crazy community of tall ship people. But
Bunch of fucking pirates, I think. That's what that
yeah, that's the thing. It's like so much of that scene is weird. It's like dress up, but they do really do sail the ships, and they have races. They have all sorts of, you can travel up and all over the world. It really,
Yeah, you could see them go. They go through the harbor down
Mhm.
in downtown in Little Italy area, like right down by the airport in downtown San Diego. They're
yeah,
always out.
yeah. So that kind of led to just other boats, and then just being in a harbor. I transferred over to Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara, so I was there, and that led to commercial fishing, like on the Channel Islands down there for crab and lobster.
So
And
let's talk about that for a minute.
then,
What are some of your thoughts on the issues of like overfishing, the problems so I just watched this documentary that Motherboard, the Vice show put out about like something like 80% of the fish that we get in the market is farmed fish.
yeah,
and
yeah,
and some of the like serious problems of shallow water farm fishing. And this guy was building, so this guy built these huge fucking domes that he was farm fishing in the deep sea, and it was much less
wow,
impact on the ecological system.
yeah.
Solved a bunch of problems, but it's still a real major issue. So, do you have any? I don't know if you have any sort of like activist ideas, or are these things important to you, or
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
or from that perspective, like from the fisherman's side, usually we see hunters are also a lot of times conservationists if they're not just like total dickheads.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a lot of times
totally.
those are the people who are in the environment that they're trying to help. Do
Yeah.
you see that from the commercial fisherman side, or is it like overrun with the business aspect of people fucking greed and money and like, just getting as much as we can, because it seems like there's some real issues going on, right?
Yeah, definitely. There's a whole bunch of really gnarly bad fisheries going on, and a lot of that has to do also with economic issues with the countries that are out there doing the fishing and what resources they have available. So there's always two sides to everything, but yeah, I think someone who eats seafood, you should really try to educate yourself on it. Pretty much don't eat tuna, although a lot of line caught albacore is fine, and kind of caught responsibly. But if you look at like the Monterey Bay Aquarium, they have a list of fisheries and sort of what they suggest as good practices and bad ones.
Yeah.
But the one I'm doing up in Alaska is wild caught salmon, and it's just like the system is really well managed because of what's going on. The fish are coming back to land, and we're catching them right as they're going up the river. So they physically have people counting them as they go up, and they'll say, okay, we've got enough upriver where enough will spawn to come back in future years so you guys can catch. And so they'll sort of also use us as a tool to sort of thin out parts of the run. It's just really well done. And it's proven that they're getting stronger, and we've got really huge runs. Last year was the biggest I've ever seen in 10 years. And this year is supposed to be bigger, the prediction. So certain fisheries like that, you can really, really use science to your advantage. But other ones, like way out to sea, it's a different ball game. And
yeah,
I think certain practices like purse seining, you're just going to catch a whole bunch of shit, and it's not going to be necessarily what you want. So you're just going to have to dump a bunch of stuff overboard. So long lining, can be pretty gnarly. There's just a lot of stuff that's not super ecologically responsible.
So what happens? In your instance, is it a company choosing to act responsibly, or is it a government, setting regulations?
Yeah, we're all managed up in Alaska by the Alaska Department of Fish and Game. So it's a government deal, and they're using all these scientists and volunteers, and they can take a scale sample from a fish as it comes into the bay, Bristol Bay, and they can say, okay, this fish is going to go to this river, so we're going to allow this other river to fish, or they do it all really. It's way over my head.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But I mean, it's nice to talk to somebody who's actually in that environment, right? Instead of just talking shit about some documentary that I saw.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And we have a real issue with rising sea levels too, which I assume has some sort of effect on this type of environment, this type of work, the ecological systems that will be replaced and changed with Greenland and the Arctic fucking melting. I imagine we're going to see some big changes in the way commercial fishing would work as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think all that stuff, we don't know the impacts that it's going to have on our fishery. And I mean, yeah, it's going to be, we'll see what happens.
I know. I think we're going to lose all the ice. I think it looks like the set pattern, unless we hit some strange like ice age again somehow. I don't know what sets an ice age off necessarily. Yeah. It might be like meteor impact or something. I don't know. I'm not sure what besides like just cyclical nature of things.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's cool. Let's talk about your work a little bit for maybe people that don't know. I think the work that you've been doing lately. I think you mentioned I wrote down a phrase that you like 18th century etchings. I think there's a sort of woodblock sort of illustrative nature to the stuff that you're doing. A lot of line work, which I find fucking super awesome. Like I'm always I'm so intrigued by how a solid line going from thin to thick can change the aspect of a shape and create imagery just with the most minor of detail changes, just the brush stroke having more pressure than it did the moment before, and adding lines together. The work is super detailed. Like, it looks like it probably takes you a long time, but I imagine that you're able to do it super fast. Like, you have some sort of like superhero technique that you like bang out.
No, I wish.
Because it looks daunting. That's what I like. I like works when there's a ton of marks on something, and it's like, how could somebody sit down and make all those marks?
Yeah. I know. I wish I could say like, oh, it's really meditative, but no, I'm just like banging my head against the table all the time.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Why did I start this 3 lines in? You're like, motherfucker. So you definitely have like, like an old time illustration style. Like I said, wood blocks or a linoleum print. Like, almost, I like it. The work has a print aspect to it, but I assume you're using like ink.
Yeah, and actually, I got a tip from you on one of your episodes. You talked about mixing gouache in with the ink, and I've been
gouache on.
Yeah, that's been a good technique.
Yeah,
kind of
nice.
Makes it way more solid. So yeah, I've been trying to do that. I was using some microns for a while and like trying to like fool around with like old school, like the oblique pens and like some old glass pen I got off my grandfather.
Right.
But yeah, I'm trying to just get back to just the brush and like, if I make a mistake, it's kind of part of it, or it makes it look more, hand done, I guess, or something. Because you just can't really erase those lines; they're just down there.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. There's in that method, there is no room for mistake. Mistake is a part of the piece.
Yeah.
If you're doing just ink to paper or ink to board or whatever, I mean, I guess there's things that you could do, but
yeah, I like to use like this really thick, like cold press paper, and you can sort of hack at it with like a razor blade, but there's only so much you can do.
Cut out chunks of the paper.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you had done photography too. You sort of have taken it's funny. The podcast is evolving into making little mini documentaries too, and it seems like the way that you've worked and like with your photography work as well, you've sort of started to almost make like a documentary of your life to a certain extent. And I guess that's what we're all kind of doing. But I think there's like a film aspect to it. It seems like there's you seem like a storyteller, maybe, and that's just my assumption from looking at what you've done.
No, totally. I mean, I actually did make a little short documentary just on like my first container ship that I caught. It was like a 6-month job. But yeah, I think I realized I do kind of enjoy telling stories, but I think I also enjoy how, you sort of look back, like nostalgia kicks in on like shipping and going to sea. I'm always like kind of yearning to get back to sea, but then when I'm actually at sea, I'm like, man, I just want to go home. This is kind of what am I doing out here?
That's so weird, right? What is that about? That happens with travel. I get that feeling a lot, like going just to a different city for a few days. Like as soon as I get there, I'm like, fuck, home feels so much better. But then there's the excitement for a minute. But the nostalgia, right, that kicks in, it's like that's homesickness, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think stuff related to the sea is always like that. And, just the way like photos are sort of like this memory, but they're not real, it's like all kind of skewed through this lens. And I don't know, I think all that stuff's interesting. And
what is it about the sea that draws people out there?
Yeah, I don't know, there's so much to it. Yeah, like you were saying about being pigeonholed, I think I'll probably always make work sort of related to the sea, but I don't really. I just see it as so much room for metaphor and it's kind of endless. And
well, it's like the original home one. We are all fish. We were all something that came out of the ocean at some point.
But
it is, and you mentioned surfing. It's obvious. Like all my surfer friends are super addicted to being in the ocean.
As a surfer, you just sit there and stare at the horizon line for like 50% of your life or something.
And you really sort of get in tune with it as well, right? Like I feel like people who are in the ocean a lot feel like they're like a part of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I definitely get in the ocean. I'm like, this is a separate body than my own. Like And not that like I'm not that. It's not that I'm like that uncomfortable, but it just doesn't feel like that's where I belong.
Yeah.
Like I feel like a stranger in that land.
Really?
Yeah.
Even like body surfing? You don't like body surfing at all?
I mean, I did it as a kid, but like not. It's not something that like I focus my time towards. And you know, sometimes I wish that I did. Like I'm all, maybe like envious of that like that connection to nature. I think I sort of miss out on sometimes. You know, I mean, I guess there's plenty of things to do, but you know, I think that's because, especially with my proximity being so close to the Pacific Ocean, you know, in comparison to a vast majority of the people in the country. But I don't know, it didn't draw me in. But like, I love like old timey like Irish folk songs about being on the ocean, like old like Scrimshaw shit is some of my favorite shit, which is kind of goes along. Have you ever done any Scrimshaw?
I've been trying to do it. I probably shouldn't even like talk about it, but I've been trying to do it on like this old, you know, those like what do they drink in like Cancun or like those plastic like yard cups? You know? It's not working at all, but I really want to do like spring break Scrimshaw, like crappy, like, I don't know. Cause they, you know, I saw this exhibit of Scrimshaw and it was always like, yeah, this was probably from a deckhand on some whaling, blah, blah, blah. And it's like semi pornographic, like crude carvings, you know?
That's a good idea, man. Nobody steal that copyright. Nobody.
I don't know if it'll ever happen.
Yeah, you got to find the right cups.
Yeah, I've been working on it. It's more like getting the ink to sit in plastic. It doesn't really work like bone, you know. But
yeah, to stay in the creases. Does it sink into? It sinks into the cup too, right? Like it just stains the cup. Or does it wash off, or does it all wash off?
It kind. Do you want to see it? I can show you what I.
Yeah. We should, I want to know. Yeah, okay. I've done a couple. Like I did 2 on like bullhorns, I guess. I think that's what it was. It was fun.
Yeah, it's kind of satisfying, just like whittling, but you know, you get to actually see something.
Yeah. Have you ever like? I'm curious about some of like the gnarly moments out at sea.
Okay.
Has there been anything like that scared the shit? So. And like a few years, and this is something I wanted to talk to you about too, like because shipping containers show up in your work a lot, and lately they've been showing up in the water themselves, not on the shipping boats anymore. Yeah. I had spent, and I've talked about this on the show a bunch of times, but I spent like hours watching all the Japanese tsunami footage and watching the ocean like take over all of everything. There was one shot where it was just like it looked like a bay spot where they had just stacks of shipping containers that were like on land getting ready to get on a boat, on a dock or whatever the phrase would be, and they had all been washed out from the tsunami, and it was just looked like miles of shipping containers, and it was like really beautiful. Like it was destructive as hell, but it was really a beautiful sight. And I ended up doing a little painting of it, but then I saw Mary Iverson's work, and she does a bunch of like shipping container things too. Yeah. Like they were like the same colors, and because like they're typically like a few sets of colors. Like they have some colors that show up pretty often. Yeah. And so I was like, "Fuck, I can't do that anymore." It's so nice. You obviously do something completely different. It doesn't look anything like that, but I'm curious if you've had any gnarly experiences with the ocean being a motherfucker to you.
Yeah, just like in terms of big storms and stuff, for sure. Hit some pretty gnarly weather in the Mediterranean last like spring. I was out there, and we actually passed a ship that had just dumped like 500 containers out in a storm in the Atlantic. It's crazy, you know, and a lot of it just doesn't make the news. You only sort of hear of it. Just a few weeks ago in Oakland, they some longshoremen just like with the crane knocked like 4 containers off of a ship while they were loading it. And they didn't tell anybody. They were like floating around the Oakland estuary. And the longshoremen are really funny. They're still like
usually have people's products in them, right? Like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, I've been working for the pilots this year, like the bar pilots in San Francisco. I just left the job, but for like the last 6 months, and there was some pretty gnarly stuff in the bay. We came across a jumper like right after he jumped off the bridge. That was pretty intense.
Ooh. And that's still a pretty regular occurrence now.
Oh yeah, way too often. Yeah, most of my coworkers that have been working there for a while have seen it, and yeah, it was intense. It shook me up. It was right after the holidays. So
what do you have to do in that instance? Do you call the Coast Guard? Do you guys have to deal with
Yeah. No, the Coast Guard, they've got a station real close to there on the north side of the Golden Gate, and they can sort of jam out real quick. And so we just sort of stood by because we knew they were on their way. But, I'm like looking at this guy, trying to figure out if there's signs of life and like, should I jump in the water? Should I try to do something? While they're coming out, it was really kind of nerve wracking, and I couldn't tell. I don't think he was alive. Anyways, I don't want to bring this podcast down too much, but
no. Well, I mean, these are the things that are interesting. Yeah. I mean, even though it's obviously sad, it's something that happens all the time. But these are the types of things that people who aren't out there, they're not seeing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how many people.
I think it's the impact. I think the impact of hitting the water from that height kills you pretty fast.
Yeah, but there's been, I think earlier this year, there was like a high school kid who was walking across with his class, and they dared him to jump off, and he did it, and he lived. And like,
well, I imagine if you hit it just right, you could probably. Yeah. But did he break bone? He didn't get hurt.
I think he had like some bruised ribs or something. He jumped off at like kind of a lower part of it, like closer to the surf spot, like on the San Francisco side. So maybe there was more like aeration in the water or something, but he got really lucky. That's the bottom line. And he's an idiot for jumping.
That's insane, man. I can't even imagine. Well, we have the Coronado Bridge here. But I don't know if we just don't hear about it, but there's not nearly the amount of jumpers there, but it does stop traffic. Maybe it's because the Golden Gate Bridge is also open to foot traffic, right? Like you could ride your bike across it, you could walk across. Yeah. That's probably I don't think you can't walk across the Coronado Bridge.
You find a couple stories of people on the Coronado Bridge threatening to jump, but
it happens.
Not like by the thousands or something like that.
Yeah, sometimes people just stop their car, get out, and jump. And then their bodies wash out really fast because of the current. It like takes them out to the ocean.
Yeah,
it's gnarly. So all right, you really fucking took it down.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. Dude, I'm surprised. I'm interested. Have you ever done any of like the old like sea monster illustrations?
I just did one. I've got this like octopus. Actually, it's right here. I can show you. Not the best radio I know for viewers at home, but a little sea monster holding the container. No, I'd like to do more. I mean, I'm interested in all that stuff, like all the old kind of mythic sea stuff, and
it's always fun to try to figure out what they were actually seeing.
Yeah.
It's just an artist's interpretation. So it's like we put all this like mythical like weirdness to those old maps and those old illustrations. It's always I get that way when people start talking about like cave paintings or even like like art from like the Aztec era or whatever. Like they're like, oh, this means this and this, and the world is coming to an end or whatever the fuck. And it's like I can make some shit right now that don't mean shit. And maybe somebody sees it fucking 5,000 years from now. You can tell me that they're gonna make like some fucking like acknowledgement to some past god and some prediction of the future. I don't know, man.
Like your war paint photos.
Yeah. It could be anything.
There'd be like that was a thing back then.
Yeah, like people had orange heads. People had orange on their face. It was just how they were.
Or there was aliens and your blue people that you paint blue.
Those were old alien gods. We put so much, attached so much, realness to things that might have just been, some bullshit. Which were most likely some bullshit. But I love those old, and you could tell, of course, I'm sure, creatures coming up out of the ocean when you're in your wooden boat, trying to cross the fucking sea could be scary as fuck.
Yeah.
Seeing some like great white sharks back in the 1800s. Fuck that shit. Imagine that. That'd be scary as fuck.
That would be.
So it makes sense why those like illustrations, like the fish look like lions and like things that they've seen on land before.
Yeah,
You know, like they transfer like the most like weird like bears. Like maybe they saw some fucking grizzly bears. So all of a sudden the things coming out of the ocean on the maps look like grizzly bear fish and shit. So what do you have coming up? I know you've been doing a bunch of group shows lately. You got anything on the horizon that we could look forward to?
Yeah, a couple group shows still up. The FFDG one's coming down probably this weekend, and then but yeah, Seeing Things galleries opening up tonight, so I'm heading down, and your buddy Michael Shung is in that.
Nice.
And a bunch of other folks.
Yeah,
and then,
I think I saw the flyer for that today.
Yeah, and then this little deal at the Incline Gallery. It's pretty. Andres Guerrero and Matt Gonzalez, some other San Francisco guys, are put together this thing called Benefit for the Artists, just because there's so many times that artists get asked to like donate their works to some cause,
Yeah, for sure.
So this is like 100% go to the artists of the sales. So it's pretty sweet.
Nice, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's coming up mid-month.
Cool, man. Well, hey, Martin, I want to thank you for taking the time to shoot the shit with us. Was there anything else you wanted to get out there? You feel good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's good to get to know you a little bit in the digital form. Next time I'm trying to make a San Francisco trip here soon. It's been a little while. But I was up in the summer. I think I want to come up this coming up summer.
Cool. Yeah, let me know.
So we'll get together.
Each person.
All right, brother. Let's. Where can people find your work? Plug your website and maybe your Instagrams or your Facebooks.
Sure. It's just my name a whole bunch of times. MartinMachado.com. I think my Instagram is the same, Martin Machado, and yeah, probably the same for Facebook. So.
All right, nice. We'll try to link you through the podcast stuff as well.
Cool.
All right, my brother. I want to thank you again for taking the time to shoot the shit with us. Let's do internet dap.
Yeah, of course.
Bam.
Boom. Yeah.
Good. All right. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
All right. You guys
have a good day.
one.
Later.
See you.
All right.
Yep.
That was our talk with Martin. Pretty fun, huh?
Books.
Yeah, dude. He does some crazy shit. Fuck. It makes me so scared. Like I have I'll. It's not that I have nightmares, but I'll like sit and think like, what if I was on a boat in the middle of the ocean and it sunk and I had to like wade in like shark infested water for more than 2 minutes?
I think I'd pull like the whole Knights thing and just go out, like just take my own life. Like
you just sink.
Yeah, I just sink. There's no
Dude,
way.
you know how hard it is to make yourself breathe underwater?
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
Dude, it's so crazy.
Your mind wants to end it, but then your body, your instincts, it won't let you.
Yeah.
But if you're like out and all you see is water on every single side you look, that's
trying to float, like flat float and not fall asleep. Luckily, I'm a little chubby, so I got some buoyancy just in case. All right, brother. Thanks again.
No problem.
Later.
When first I come to Liverpool, I went upon a spree. Me money at last I spent too fast, got drunk as drunk could be. And when my money was all gone, 'twas then I wanted more. But a man must be blind to make up his mind to go to sea once more. I spent the night with Angeline, too drunk to roll in bed. My watch was new and my money too. In the morning with them she fled. And as I roamed the streets about, the whores they all would roll. Here comes Jack Rack, the young sailing lad. He must go to sea once more. As I was walking down the street, I met with Rapper Brown. I asked him to take me in, and he looked at me with a frown. He said, last time you was paid off with me, your job no score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you the chance, and I'll send you to sea once more. I hired me aboard of a whaling ship bound for the Arctic seas, where the cold winds blow through the frost and the snow, and Jamaican rum would freeze. And worst and bare, I'd no hard weather gear, for I'd lost all my money ashore. 'Twas then I wished that I was dead, so I'd gone to sea no more. Some days we're catching whales, me lads, and some days we're catching none. With a 20-foot oar cocked in our hands from 4 o'clock in the morn. And when the shades of night come in, we rest on our weary oar. 'Twas then I wished that I was dead or safe with the girls ashore. Come all you bold seafaring men and listen to my song. If you come off of them long trips, I'd have yous not go wrong. Take my advice, drink no strong drink, don't go sleeping with no hoes. But get married, lads, and have all night in, so you'll go to sea no more.